Thank you for tapping in to My Safe Place with Tati's podcast, where you can relax and unwind. This is a live podcast that takes place on Facebook Live every Wednesday. And I'm your host, Tati Harden. On this podcast, there is no cap. I talk about various topics, especially the uncomfortable ones. I also include Tati's ugly truth. You know, I have to keep it real. Most importantly, my podcast gives you resources that helps you with your day-to-day life. This is a judgment-free zone and all are accepted. Let's get started into tonight's episode.
All right, so this is My Safe Place with Tati, where your thoughts and feelings are protected, and I'm your host, Tati Harding, and thank you for tapping into Season 2, Episode 14. To stay in tune with what I'm doing, you can follow me on social media at A2 Books Inc., at My Safe Place with Tati, and of course, my beautiful website that everyone needs to visit, www.mysafeplace.org, with the dashes in between. And let's just jump right into the episode. So this episode is titled Inner Storm, and the topic is anxiety. The song of the episode is Free Minds by Thames, and this is a powerful quote. Always do quotes, if everybody know. I'm a quote fanatic. So, worrying is carrying tomorrow's load with today's strength, carrying 2 days at once. It is moving into tomorrow ahead of time. Worrying doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. And that's by Corey Ten Boom. I felt like that was really good. My guest tonight is Phylicia Harris. She's a licensed therapist, a school social worker, a psychotherapist for help esteem counseling services. She is a jack of all trades, Black and educated, honey. And thank you for coming on tonight. And it really means a lot.
Yes.
This episode is titled Inner Storm. And for those who never experienced anxiety before, good, shout out to you, good. But if you have, oh my God, it really feels like you're just not in control of your emotions, what you're feeling. It's really like a storm inside your body, and you are suffering in silence. Nobody can see it, nobody will understand it unless you're really going through it. And I feel like tonight I wanted to highlight anxiety because a lot of us adults are experiencing anxiety and don't know how to cope with it and how to deal with it, or don't even know that we're experiencing anxiety. That's why I asked Phylicia to come on. She's a licensed therapist, and this is one of the areas of her expertise. So I love to give free resources as much as I can, especially if I dealt with it and I learned how to deal with it later than versus during the process of it. So I just want to definitely thank you for coming on, and thank you for going into the field that you're going to in right now, because there's not a lot of people of Black colors and everything doing what you're doing. We always see, we go to a therapist, we always see a Caucasian one or a Mexican, but it's so great to see like a Black-owned therapist, because it's okay. It makes us feel more at home. So I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm so honored and privileged to share your platform and be in your space. So my name is Phylicia. I am a licensed social worker. I've been for the last 5 years. I currently work as a school social worker for the Mount Vernon City School District, and I also work for a private practice, Help Esteem Counseling Services, PLLC, where I do therapy with both adults and children. We're here to talk about anxiety. Like you said, it's something that a lot of people deal with. Some people might not know what they're experiencing, but it's real. It's very much real. It is, like you said, very silent at times, but it can definitely be consuming. And so it's definitely been something I've experienced as well. And so I'm definitely thankful and grateful to be able to talk about it, normalize it. I think a lot of times, especially like you said, in our community, we don't normalize having these conversations. And, we are kind of told to just kind of, push through and, it's going to be all right and don't even worry about it, and it's people are struggling and, we need to kind of normalize it, put words to it, and help people learn how to cope. healthily, because we still.
Because it's so hard. And I didn't know I was experiencing anxiety until I got older and started realizing, doing research on it, like, okay, because I'm like, oh my God, why am I just so nervous? Like, I'm just so nervous all the time. But then I had to really think, like, when I got older and I realized, I'm like, oh wait, I experience anxiety. And then after I'm like my adulthood, I'm experiencing more after certain traumatic experiences happening around me. So that is definitely good. So I want you to basically get into more detail of what anxiety is. Like, is it in different categories of it and different levels of anxiety?
Yes. And so I want to first kind of give that clinical definition first. And anxiety is basically just the excessive feeling of worry. And it shows up through uneasiness, tension, apprehension, panic, fear. And in order for it to be diagnosable, it has to be for a period of time. So we all experience, anxiety maybe from day to day, going to work, or if you're preparing for something, you have that natural feeling of like, oh, I'm worried about this, or I'm anticipating this and I'm fearful. But when it kind of gets to become more of an issue is when it's an onset, it's consistent, it's happening most days than not. And it's to the point where it can sometimes be uncontrollable. And can kind of debilitate you from performing normal daily functions. So that's where you see people who might avoid social situations or avoid people, or, that's where you see people experiencing panic attacks, things like that. And so there are different levels. You kind of think about like that social piece. So, maybe being fearful of large spaces, or being fearful of places like the grocery store or going to work. So that's more of that, like that social anxiety piece. There's also that panic piece, where you have kind of recurrent unexpected panic attacks. So it can kind of just happen unexpectedly. You can be, performing a normal task, a regular function, and then you find yourself starting to experience panic. We have selective mutism, so that's like failure to speak in like different social situations. Then you also have phobias, which fall under that umbrella of anxiety. So when people are super fearful of either objects or different things that I wouldn't say it's not abnormal, because I have a phobia of mice, but but it's when you have that uncontrollable fear of something, and then you have fear of like public transportation, fear of open or closed spaces, kind of anticipating going to those different settings can kind of trigger some sort of anxiety. And then you have substance medication induced anxiety. So that's sometimes where, if you are someone who experienced substance use and, either having withdrawals or feeling anxious when you do not have that substance present, someone might experience that, or anxiety due to a medical condition. So when you've just been recently diagnosed with something and you experience uncontrollable worry due to your medical condition. So there are a lot of different components of anxiety, but I think the biggest is like the generalized, so like the overall, you're just feeling worried, having phobias, or experiencing panic.
Yeah, phobias, I definitely didn't think something like that, because people like, I'm so scared of, like, I'm scared of elevators. I'm scared of being just confined in that space. So then it's like, how do you go in the elevator? Like, she's like, oh my, I just had anxiety. But then I have really bad to going over bridges. And that started because I watched Final Destination and the whole that bridge collapsed. So now I'm like, oh no, like in here in my mind, just my luck, when I get on this bridge, it's gonna collapse and fall down.
It's real though.
So
it's
literally,
real. And your mind will make you believe that final destination is gonna happen every time you go across that bridge.
Literally, like, I don't go on the water. I stay in the middle, or like where the barricades is, but my heart is beating so fast. Like, people didn't believe me until I got in the car with them, and I took their hand, I put it on my heart. It was like, you really scared? Like, no,
Yeah.
I am definitely scared, because it's that 1%
Yeah.
that can be me, you know? So yeah, that is definitely a great point that you made with that. So like, those are different causes, but like, can we narrow down certain triggers that can cause anxiety?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's very much situational. I think a lot of times after someone's experienced something traumatic, anything that might remind that person of that traumatic experience can trigger them. And also the places or the things that they might fear. And so, if you have a fear of being in an enclosed space, maybe going into an elevator, you might experience some panic before you enter that place. Or if you come across somebody that might not feel the most comfortable, the most safe around, you
Right.
might find yourself experiencing panic. And so a trigger is literally anything that onsets, or makes you feel either unsafe, angry, confused, worried, fearful. And so it is really situational, but really just thinking about, things like a test, or things like, going to the doctor's appointment and being fearful of what may happen next. A lot of those things trigger, feelings of panic, feelings of worry, feelings of fear.
Right. Yeah.
And it's important. We have to be aware of what triggers us,
Yeah.
and we have to kind of recognize how our body responds when we're around people, when we're in different places, when we're doing certain things. Like, our bodies will warn us, like, okay,
Right.
your heart starts, just like you're about to cross that bridge, your heart starts to beat fast, you start to feel a little nervous, you start to think about, that moment where you saw that bridge fall in Final Destination, so that you got to pay attention to how your body responds to certain things, so that you can recognize, okay, like, if I know this is going to happen, I can plan and prepare for how I'm going to manage the feeling.
Right. How, like, with my anxiety, like, I really realized, like, I developed anxiety, like, of course, when I was pregnant with my daughter, like, the anticipation when my grandfather died. So when he announced to us that he was gonna pass, so it was just like that fear, like, okay, when is it? Like, every time, like, my mother would call me, I'm like, is this the call, right? So then the day that, it's so funny because I planned it with my parents. I'm going to talk about the time. Told my parents, don't call me when I'm at work. We had this whole plan in order, how to break it to me, everything. Day of Christmas, I get the phone call from his phone, from my grandfather's phone. So he calls me every, holiday, whatever, and then it wasn't him. And when I said that, ever since then, like, certain people will call my phone, my heart would start beating. Like, what is it? What is it? That triggered my anxiety so much. It was like that traumatic experience that happened with that. So I was like, I'm learning how to cope with that. Like,
it's that anticipation of, like, that unknown, that, like, what are you about to tell me? Or when, things change, you weren't expecting it to be someone else on that phone, right? And so then your mind starts to kind of condition, like, okay, now you need to be prepared that someone might call you with something bad every single time. And that's not necessarily the case. That's when we kind of challenge those negative thinkings. But, that trauma is real. Trauma is real.
Yes, like, if my daughter's school calls me, or like my mom, if she calls me during the day and I don't answer it, like, whatever, she'll text me right after, coming back, not emergency. She knows. But if she calls me back to back, I know it's something. But she has to text me, it's not an emergency. Well, it's like vice versa. It's not an emergency, so we can get our nerves down. That's just how it goes. But this is a good question that someone asks. How can an adult tell they are having anxiety versus just being nervous?
It's a good question. I think, again, so we all experience, like, a normal amount of nervousness, when we're anticipating, like, a day-to-day function. Shifts to anxiety when it's more of a consistent onset thing. And so if you are maybe waking up every morning anxious, if you are having trouble falling asleep, if you are experiencing shortness of breath, or panic, or fear of not being able to control or manage your thinking, always having these negative, fearful thoughts of bad things happening, that's when it kind of shifts from, I'm no longer nervous, I'm more so anxious.
Right.
But again, we all experience some form of anxiety in different ways, shapes, or forms. I think the biggest difference is like, so if you have to take a test that you've been studying all year for, you might have that normal level of like, I'm nervous for this. And kind of shifts the anxiety when it's no longer within your control. And it is something that is more consistent. You are experiencing those symptoms more than you're not.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And definitely the word control. Control triggers anybody anxiety. And even if you don't develop it, you just have that thing like, oh my God, I can't think of it. I can't do it. Like that's a human thing that we have to learn to cope with as well. Because not we're going to develop anxiety, giving ourselves just because I can't control things.
Yeah.
Like but then
and relinquishing that, like,
it.
we're not going to be able to control everything. We can't. We are not God. And so really just kind of relinquishing ourselves from that feeling. But like you said, it's our human nature and instinct to think that we are supposed to have everything under control. And the biggest thing is you accept the things you cannot change. I can only control what I can control. I can't. That's all I can manage.
Yes. We can't control everything. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So moving forward, because we talked about having anxiety and the signs and the triggers. Now, how can we cope with anxiety as an adult? What are some coping strategies that we can say? And I'm going to write things down too, so I can have it for my notes.
Absolutely. So I teach my kids this at school. So a coping strategy is literally anything within reason and something that is positive and healthy that you enjoy that can make you feel better. And so just some basic coping strategies. I think we all underestimate the power of our breath. And so deep breathing, taking a second to just stop and to breathe. The simple inhaling and exhaling sends oxygen back to our brains to let us know, wait, no, I'm okay. And so the one I recommend the most, because it's the quickest thing that you can do, you can always do it all the time, just kind of stop for a second and take deep breaths. One simple technique I do, you breathe in, you hold it for 4 seconds, you exhale, you do it again. You repeat as many times as you need to. Then there's also like grounding techniques. And so a lot of times when people are experiencing panic, when they're experiencing, feeling really worried about something, a lot of times your mind starts to spiral and your mind starts to create a lot of scenarios. And so what grounding does is bring you back to the present. It brings you back into what's happening around you. And it's really just by paying attention to your senses. And so if my mind is going 12,000 miles a minute, I can stop for a second and focus on what's around me. What do I see? What can I hear? What can I touch right now? Who can I talk to? What can I smell? I kind of start to connect with those things, which will kind of help you shift from whatever it is that's causing you the anxiety. And then so like other things like exercise, wellness, stretching, for those who are spiritual, prayer, journaling. These are all
I love journaling.
I've started journaling and it has really been very helpful. And even just like when thinking about anxiety in a specific, just really thinking about what's making me anxious, writing down those things, writing down those anxious thoughts and combating them, challenging that negative thinking, challenging that worrying thought. Even though we can't control everything, we oftentimes underestimate how much control we do have. And so I always say, I anxiety don't have me, And So
Exactly.
I can manage this thing. I can control this thing.
Mhm.
I can shift these things. I have power and authority over my thoughts. And so if there's
Yes.
a thought that's trying to, run rampant in my mind, I have the power to shrink it. I have the power. No, I'm
Right.
not thinking about that right now. I'm going to do something else. And so
Right.
a lot of, challenging irrational thinking, challenging those negative thoughts,
Right.
saying, no, I'm not making this bit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are some simple things. Positive self-talk,
Yeah.
how we speak to ourselves can
Affirmation.
ultimately change, how anxious we feel, and so
Right.
shifting our thinking, and then movement. So exercise, stretching, um,
Yoga. Let's do
yoga,
yoga.
there's a lot, just movement can help just to relax our muscles. Even simple things like squeezing our fists and letting it go to release that
Mm-hmm.
tension from our body, hugging ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then talking, calling
Right.
someone you love, calling a trusted person, someone who's safe, going to
Right.
therapy, I think are
Yes.
all important ways to cope and strategies to help manage when you're feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, definitely therapy. What's that thing called? Um, Children with autism use it a lot. It's like a
Yeah,
sensory ball,
yeah,
like a squish
sensory
ball.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Fidgets,
Uh,
adults need that
yeah,
too.
the fidget thing. The fidget, I tried that fidget. It was, I can see why it calms you down, because
Absolutely.
you get so
Absolutely.
distracted on what
Yeah.
is going
You,
on, but
yeah.
you're like, I just spent
Yeah.
45 minutes telling this daggone thing
Yeah.
about my
Yeah.
So like I love it. Like I work with children with autism, and it had so many different
Yeah.
sensory things that can really help you get your mind off of whatever, like distracting them. I felt like the children with autism are brilliant. Like they are the blueprint to
Yeah.
helping us live the day-to-day
It's
life,
true.
because it's hard for them,
It's
but
true.
their techniques is
It's
amazing.
true.
So we did have 2 questions that was really good. Can anxiety turn into depression, like lead into depression?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because so when thinking about like that social piece, and so a lot of times when people are anxious about going different places, oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
people might isolate.
Right.
And depression a lot of times can sneak up when people are feeling alone, when people are
Right.
avoiding places and people. You kind of then confine to yourself, and you confine to your thoughts, and that's when you might find yourself lacking that motivation, and you might find yourself starting to experience depressive symptoms, which looks like lack of motivation, fatigue,
Right.
not wanting to go anywhere, not doing your normal daily functions. And so
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And I definitely think for anyone who might feel like they might find themselves starting to isolate, reach out to your support. If you don't feel like you
Right.
have support, find support. So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of resources within the community, online therapy, even apps, just to kind of help
Yep.
connect you and reconnect yourself back to your community, or to to society, and just so on and so forth. So yes, it can.
Yeah. And also another resource, my website.
Yes,
Hello.
yes. Go to Safe
And
Place with Tati.
I
Listen,
have,
yes.
yes, I have a Facebook group called Open Book, and so good. We have, I think, 47 members right now,
Awesome.
and we just talk.
Yeah.
We have different things. I'm planning a vision board with a twist on the 23rd of. So we do different
Yeah.
activities, and everything's motivational. We network. So if you want to be a part of that group as well, you could just put in the comments or whatever, and I can send you a link. You could join as well, and you're still in the comfort of your
Yeah.
own home, but you are
Yeah.
socializing a little bit. So it helps. Definitely talking and getting people. Facebook, they have different Facebook groups you can do as well. Another question, a good one. What are some tips for social anxiety?
I laugh because I think my friend's on here, and it's something that people experience. I think so I think there's different ways of approaching. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's different places where you might find yourself anxious, going, maybe trying to confront going to that place,
Right.
going with someone that you trust and that you love, Affirmations, reassuring yourself that you're safe, that you're okay, you know, and some people also do like some sort of exposure. And so, you know, maybe if you're afraid to go into a grocery store, maybe you start small. Maybe you start by going to a small little market first, you know, maybe don't go alone. Then you find yourself, you know, maybe you take that next step. And I also think confronting and figuring out what is making you anxious about it, right? So really challenging those thoughts. Why am I nervous to go to this place? Did I experience something? So a lot of times people might have had a negative experience at a different place, and it's caused them to now just completely be fearful of places in general or people, you know. So maybe if there was, you know, a traumatic thing that happened, and you're like, no, I'm not going out anymore, you know? And so really kind of grounding. So going back to that grounding piece, focusing on, you know, even though that was, and we're going to make space for what was, also looking at what is and what could be. And, you know, so a lot of people say, like, what if something bad happens? What if something good happens? You know, what, you know, you might say, I'm going to go to this place, I'm going to have a horrible time. But what if I don't? You know, like, what if I actually have the time of my life? You know, you don't want to kind of rid yourself of those experiences because of fear. You know, fear will try to really consume us and keep us in that place. And we really have to say to ourselves, no, like, and also kind of back to that affirmation piece, telling yourself, like, I deserve to enjoy this. I deserve to go pick up my fruit from the grocery store. So much should not take that experience from me. I deserve to go enjoy that party just as much as somebody else should, you know, and saying it until you believe it, and always, you know, find your people, like, you know, like, listen, girl, I need you to go with me to this event because I'm fearful. This is what I'm thinking. And also have a plan. So if you find yourself, you know, going to a place and, you know, you find yourself very anxious, you know, have a plan. Okay, I'm gonna call so-and-so, or I'm gonna go to the bathroom and I'm gonna take some breaths, or I'm gonna practice my affirmations, just so that you're not going there, you know, with no plan, you know.
That's good. That is definitely good. Just to piggyback off you said too, because I do a life coach, so I have a client, and she was just like, one of her things that give her anxiety is getting hurt in a relationship, right? So she's like, she don't want to give her heart away because she's scared of getting hurt. Exactly what she said. So like, she's like, I don't want to give my heart away. I'm like, if you don't get your heart away, you'll get hurt. So if you keep it, you're gonna get hurt. If you don't, you're gonna get hurt. So which one would you rather? You know, so he's like, especially with this game, love is all about risk taking. So if there's somebody you want to be with, you have to do that trust thing. And that gave her so much anxiety. So I gave her some helpful tips and exactly what you said. So I hope she's watching so she can know it's not just me in the world that said it, it's you too.
And you know why would you not allow yourself to experience love or experience security or safety with someone else because of fear? You know, that fear, I'm telling, fear can be crippling, but we just have to really try to be intentional about taking our power back. You know, we have authority over fear.
Yes. Because I always say fear is limitation. Fear is just limiting yourself into this one box. I'm tired of being in this glass box looking at everything around me. No. And then I did have social anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, especially my business. Like, I want to start a podcast, but I don't want people looking at me. Like, and I started nitpicking with myself. And I'm like, oh no, I'm tearing my own self down. So how is anybody going to come on and watch me if I don't have the confidence to do that?
And imagine how many people's lives wouldn't be touched or impacted had you decided to say, I'm not going to start a podcast. You know, there's people who need what's in you. You know, there's people who need, and that's for anybody who might be experiencing fear or experiencing what could happen. There are people that's waiting on you. There's people that need to hear what My Safe Place has for them, you know? And so you kind of have to think of it like that. Like, listen, I can be scared. You know what? Do it scared. You can be scared, but you gotta still do it. You know? Because somebody.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Because I'm like, it's not. No, I don't have like this podcast like outline. I'm just bringing it, and every episode is helping me get better and better and better, whatever the case may be. So like I'm just building, but I feel like this topic is definitely much needed, and we're gonna get back on topic with anxiety for children. Because when you said you want to talk about it with adults and children, I was like, wow, I'm not gonna say I forgot about them, but I forgot about them. Like I didn't think, like, because it's mostly adults that go through it, but I'm like, children, like when like they was like kids first day of school, I'm scared because I'm gonna meet new people, my teacher, like they're just scared about that, and I'm like, oh, that could be anxiety. So definitely, like, what is the difference between adult anxiety and children anxiety, if it's any difference, or how would you explain that?
So I think the biggest thing is the expressions and the vocabulary. And so adults are able to kind of articulate and connect more with their feelings than kids. Kids are still, I mean, we all are still trying to figure it out, but kids are really developmentally trying to figure it out. And so they might not necessarily have the verbiage for it, but it's the same thing, right? So like you said, that first day jitterness, being away from their parents for the first time, kids definitely experience anxiety. When thinking about them specifically, you might see anxiety show up maybe by them having nightmares, being restless, having difficulty concentrating on a thing, being irritable, having tantrums, avoiding school. So those, I think those are, and if, again, this is something that I think everyone experiences, but for kids, you might see it show up in that way.
Right. Yeah. I never thought about it like that as well, especially like with nightmares and things like that, because you always, it's not everybody, but we just always exclude kids, like, oh, you'll get over it, or whatever the case may be, but then it could grow into something deeper, and then now they going into their teenage and their adulthood with anxiety. And I was like, but then they start blaming the parents. Well, I told you, but you didn't want to listen. So like, this is definitely the time now we should definitely listen to our kids.
Absolutely.
And, like, kids, I feel like kids definitely, especially when it comes to school, they deserve a day, a day off. I'm using my PTO.
Yeah, it's true.
PTO
it's true.
Like,
it's true. And people don't
do
realize. I think sometimes we have this expectation that, because kids are supposed to go to school and they're supposed to learn and they're supposed to grow, but that can still be challenging for them. Kids get overwhelmed too. Kids have to deal with a lot as well. And sometimes when kids don't feel safe, or when they don't feel seen, or when they don't feel heard, they will do whatever they can for you to see them, for you to hear them. And, so a lot of times we look at the defiance, so we just look at the behavior, but we don't understand, well, why are you acting out right now? Why don't you want to go to school? Why are you giving me a hard time right now? Why are you crying? And so really just giving kids the space to express themselves and letting them know that it's okay to express themselves. A lot of times, when you hear kids, don't cry, or, stop that crying, or, like you said, you still better get up and go to school. Like, no, give them space and say, well, what are you feeling? What's happening right now? People are allowed to be angry, Kids are allowed to be angry. You can be angry, but it's about what you do with that anger, what you do with the feelings.
Yes. And letting them, like you said, have a voice. Like my daughter today, she just told me and her father that she wants to start having family meetings. So she want to have family meetings every day. I'm like, okay. So she wants us to sit down, and then she wants her little brother involved because he's a part of the family. You understand. She wants to tell him, Ethan, you need to stop crying so much. Like, she wants to come and check everybody. Like, she wants everybody. It's the point, like, okay, let's do it. And how old is she? 6. And she just came to us today and said that she wants to start family meetings.
I love that.
Like, okay. Wait, she thinks she's the boss. And she's telling us, like, she wants us to share. Like, she wants me and her dad to share food. So that's what the meeting is about. I'm like, okay, we can't share the same plate, but whatever. It was just good that she feels heard. She feels heard. So, no. Pause. Probably have to connect you back in again. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties, but this is a part of being live. When you're live, things happen. Okay, so I'm going to remove her, and yeah, I'm going to move her. Change your compass. I don't know. Okay, yep, and then I'm going to add her back in. Bear with us. Technology is such a demon and a curse sometimes. Okay, if she adds back, we can do it, and then we can finish up because this topic is very good, guys. Bear with me 1 second. In the meantime, we're gonna play this song so you can come back.
I'm back.
Okay. We're back. Had a little intermission, guys.
I don't know what happened.
It's this Wi-Fi. Look at the devil working because he knows it's
right.
a powerful thing. Like, no, you
the
can't
people
tell.
will still be blessed. Please.
Hello.
You know, you can't let them win. You can't let them win.
Right. Because this conversation is too good. Okay, so now we know. Like, is it any techniques that we can implement with children now with their anxiety? Or the same thing with adults?
I think kids thrive off of routines. And so I think implementing like wellness into their routines. So starting, I think people underestimate what a smooth morning routine could be. So, not waking up yelling, but maybe with, dim lights, with affirmations, with breathing technique, to let them know that they are in control of their feelings and in their thoughts, and that there's healthy ways that you can express what you're feeling, and giving them space for that. And so just to encourage, breathing, the mindful breathing, to encourage, the stretching, the movement, just like with adults. Kids, I think, they thrive off of routine, and they also thrive off of safety. And so once they know that they're safe, and once they know that they, you have their best interests at heart, I think it's easier for them to express and to regulate. And so supporting them, listening to them, letting them know that their feelings are valid, giving them the space to have family meetings and to, say what they're feeling, or to write it out, or to draw it out. Kids are very creative. And so promoting and encouraging that, so draw me how you're feeling. Like, what does it look like? Where, and getting them to start to identify, what they're feeling and where. So where do you feel worry in your body? Can you show me? Is it in your head? Is it in your chest? Is it in the tightness of your body? Where do you feel anger? Is it in your tummy? Getting them to start to identify those things, and so that you can then figure out, okay, how can we best manage and deal with this? So if my heart's beating really fast, I can teach you how to breathe, to how to kind of slow your breathing down. Or if it's in, if you get, kids get like, tight, and they get mad, and bodies get tight. Let me show you how to loosen your body up. Let's incorporate some movement. Let's incorporate some exercise to kind of get that tension out of your body. So kind of helping them figure out, where they feel that anxiety, or where they feel it in their body, and giving them the space. I think someone's saying something about whoopings. I can't.
Yeah. Do you think whooping gives kids anxiety?
I think it goes back to the safety. And so by all means, I think parents, there is no blueprint. And we don't know, what works for one kid might not work for another. And so I think it's very important to discern what works for your kids. I'm not a parent yet, but I definitely think knowing that there's not a blueprint. And so that discipline in the form of a whooping might help a kid, and it might make another child very fearful. And so I think you have to pay attention to how your child responds. And, I think there's a way to implement, a whooping without having to instill fear. Like, and also paying attention to what is the whipping teaching, is it show, and make sure that whatever you are doing is clear so that the kids know, this is happening because I made this choice, not you just whipping because you want to whip me, because I think the biggest thing is teaching. We are trying to prevent this behavior from happening again. And so a whipping might not be the best in some cases. It might be a conversation, or it might be a timeout, or it might be I'm taking your iPad because you're not listening to me, And so I think whatever you decide as far as discipline is concerned, make sure that it's teaching and it's not instilling fear, because I do think what we kind of saw back when we was growing up, you just whip, you not really talking, and so you just thinking you getting whipped, you don't know why, and it's like, so now I'm scared of you, and now I ain't go home now, and I'm flinching, and now I'm anxious, or now I'm not secure, I don't feel safe, and so I think that discernment is key, and I think it's important to know your child and know what trigger, help them figure out what triggers them too. And I think no matter what you do, having those conversations afterwards, I think is key. I think that's what we kind of missed, saying like,
gotta talk after.
Right.
Yeah. Because now they're gonna think you're just angry or whatever at them, and then they're gonna be like, okay, this is what now this situation happened, I'm getting beat, and then I'm stuck like that. I'm never gonna do it again. Or I'm gonna do it again, but I'm not gonna tell her, or I'm not gonna do it. So like you said, instead it's gonna be a fear instead of respect type thing. But you said too, each kid is gonna be different, because I don't have to whip my daughter. Like, I could tell her that she's grounded. Use the word grounded is the end of the world in this house. But my son now, he's only 10 months. Oh yeah, he's gonna be the problem. Oh, he's that second child. They always say. Now I see what they're talking about. And he's touching everything now.
And it depends on the relationship too. So I think about, like, my parents. My mother was a tyrant, but my father is very, he has an ability to, like, just connect with us in a way that you already knew, like, everything that he's doing is intentional. So if he had to whip me, like, I understood. Like,
I deserved it at that point.
I have crossed the line. I deserve this, compared to God bless my wonderful mother, who she kind of just but so I really think, I think intention is key, and a relationship, that relationship component is important.
Yeah. It's too, because like you said, my dad, he's so cool, calm, and collective. My mom could yell down the house. We don't care, because we used to it like that. Like, when my dad saw yelling, be like, oh, wait, hold on.
Right, I need to chill out.
Right, my dad come in the house yelling and screaming. Something, when my mom coming in the house, mom's screaming. What kind of day did you have? That you was coming in the house following? But that's just how it is. But you said now. So, but if she comes in quiet, I know. We gotta mess with her.
Right.
So we know. It was another good question too, and this, I know exactly who we're talking about with this question. Hold on. Does anxiety get worse with old age? Example, 65 and up.
Wow, that is a great question, and it's something that we often don't talk about. Absolutely. I think life is a circle, and so as people are getting older, you start to find your abilities kind of start to shift. You're no longer the Energizer Bunny you once were. Also thinking about, as you are getting older, you experience a lot more death. You experience a lot more health issues. You experience a lot of changes at once. And a lot of things that you used to be in control of, you are no longer in control. And that creates its own sense of anxiety. And so, which I don't think we speak about often, the anxiety that comes with aging, and so I do. I don't want to say it gets worse or you know there's one worse, but it definitely is real.
Yeah.
As life changes for you, it definitely, you know, things that, you know, you kind of start to experience more, you know, like anger, like I can't do the things that I used to do, or I have to become more
Right.
dependent, you know,
Or
and
something. Right.
yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's real. That's real for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you say it, it highlights, like my grandmother, it highlights a lot of her worries and anxiety that she feels a lot. I mean, still, she watched the news too. That can
Yeah.
do it to you. Or people like to watch the news a lot, and that could just sink in your brain. Or the negative,
Yeah.
negative. So you like, don't even go out the house. But definitely, like when you lose weight, like I work with people with disabilities, and one of my clients' anxiety goes up so much when he has to walk.
Yeah.
But then it's just that fear of I'm gonna fall or I can't do anything. So he's like, no, I'd rather sit right here. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to move. Then that really registered to me. Like I'm really close with this client too, but it really busted my head. Like he has a fear, that anxiety of falling because he knows he can't
Yeah.
do it. That's definitely a valid good question. Good question. Now that was what can parents specifically do to help their child cope with anxiety?
I think the biggest thing is support, and recognizing too, support doesn't have to necessarily just be you. You know, if your
Right.
children can speak to people too, you know, speak to a professional as well. You know,
Right.
utilize the school for support, utilize your community, your church. Um, but I definitely think giving space for whatever it is that they're feeling, if they're experiencing a transition, or if they're experiencing an adjustment, or if they're experiencing anxiety, you know,
Right.
letting them know that their feelings and their mental health is just as important. And so, you know, do you want to go talk with someone? You know,
Right.
um, do I need to spend more time? Kind of just thinking about what you need or what the child needs, listening to
Right.
them, helping them learn those self-regulation skills,
Right.
and normalize getting them help. If your child needs a therapy, okay,
Get it to
no,
them.
Johnny should be punching on the walls. He might need to learn
Right.
he needs to learn how to talk, and
Yeah.
so, not giving them that space and that those opportunities to, take their mental health serious as well, and learn
Yeah.
those skills that will help carry them into adulthood.
Right. Yes. 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 So I'm gonna go back and forth a little bit because I do have Ask Toxic questions that if so basically what Ask Toxic question is they will go on my website or they would DM me questions pertaining to anything that they want. But I had we spoke before, we had one question, but then I went on and I had another question. So but it ties into what we're talking about, and then we could go there. So definitely with on the topic of a child, right? Does divorce causes anxiety within children?
Mm. Yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. I think divorce can cause anxiety just in general, because it's that fear of the unknown. It's the foundation that a child once knew is kind of shifting and changing, and so not knowing what's going to happen next can definitely trigger some anxiety. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking that too because I'm like, when a divorce comes, it's two separate households. So now it's the fear like, oh, am I gonna have fun with mom or am I gonna have fun with dad? And then it's like, okay, if I have too much fun with mom and I don't want to go to dad, and then like it puts that child in that awkward space, and it's like, okay, now I'm getting anxiety because I don't know what to do. I want to please two
Right.
parents, but how? But it's like that, like you said, be that reassurance and letting them know it's okay to have fun here.
Right.
That's
And
gonna be
having
tough.
those
Get
conversations,
going to therapy.
having those check-ins, providing them that support, letting them work through that. Like, I'm confused right now, because I think definitely that shift and that transition to, every one parent, one household to two. A child might be confused. A child might be frustrated. Why do I have to go here? I want to stay here. Or, and so
Right.
giving them the space to kind of work through the plethora of feelings and letting them know that they're not alone in what they're
Right.
feeling. And I think just definitely kind of thinking about, how both parties can support the child as they work through those feelings too, just as the adults have to work through the feelings and the transition that comes with the divorce as well.
Right. Yes, that was a good one. The next question: how would a person that's grieving and now develop anxiety find a coping mechanism?
Yeah, that grief is tricky. Grief is tricky.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it's out of our control, right? And so it's one of those things where you really have to relinquish that you can't control and change everything. Coming to some form of acceptance. I definitely think with grief, and it all depends on, the person and what helps for them. Talking, support groups, breathing, prayer, journaling. So kind of very similar things, similar outlets that can help, manage those feelings. And I think really giving yourself space to grieve, grieve is like a wave. And so you're going to have some real good days, some real bad days, just kind of giving yourself grace for the bad days. And really just reaching out to your village, to your community, to your support, and know that you are not alone. And even if you don't necessarily feel like you have personal support, finding it within your community, whether it's through grief share groups. There's a lot of support groups for people who have lost someone, and a lot of them are specific, so people who lost their parents, people who lost their kids, people who lost their siblings, finding support groups to kind of help you manage and to let you know that you're not alone. We all are going to experience some form of grief. And so really just kind of finding the community, I know I lost my mom last year, and then I realized how many people are living without their moms, and so having those conversations, and realizing that, you don't have to journey through this by yourself.
Right. And you said grief is a topic that we don't talk about enough. And so that's why I took it upon myself. September 27th, I'll be having an episode about grief. So if you'd like to tap in as well, we can share, because it's something that everybody have experienced or is experiencing, and we need to find healthy ways to cope with it. Even if we don't find healthy ways to cope, just talk about it. It's even talking about what you're going through, because like you said, somebody else can have, you didn't know that so much people is going through this, and they can help you and guide you. So this is what that episode is going to be, a connection and just being there for one another. Definitely a support episode. I will be posting that later on. But those two was great questions pertaining to anxiety, because a lot of things could trigger anxiety, especially with children in certain situations, as a divorce can be traumatic towards a child as well, especially with the parents. So that was good questions, whoever did ask those. Thank you. And we're just going to close out with the benefits of therapy. Like I said to you, I feel like therapy is frowned upon. Like, oh, I'm not going to a therapist, they're going to diagnose me. It's so much negative notions towards it. But however, there is so much good things that could come from therapy. And of course, we always see the Caucasian people, whatever. There are Black therapists. And I love that they see your face, that you're there, you're qualified, you're licensed, you're educated. You can
and
go.
So many more. There's so many more. I got my sisters on here too. Camille Hall.
So much more.
Camille, drop your website too, because
drop it, girl. Yeah. It is so much more. We're so like we see it on TV. Oh, this white therapist right there. No. We got some colors ones up there. Reach out, and they empathize, they sympathize, they understand it from the culture. So what are the benefits that you can say? Like, what are encouraging things that you can tell people to encourage them to go to therapy?
Well, I think the one thing, I think a lot of times people are nervous or fearful of like diagnosis, but I think it can sometimes be clarity. Sometimes you might do certain things, you think certain ways, you experience certain things in a different way, and you might not be able to put the words into what it is that I'm experiencing. And so a diagnosis doesn't have to be this negative label. It can be something simple as clarity.
Yeah.
You know, like I am thinking this way because I'm experiencing this. And so I think therapy has so many different benefits. For one, just the ability to have a safe place to talk, just to have a safe place to vent, just to have a safe place to exist, and just to have a safe place to be, you know, where without judgment, without bias, you know, without, you know, shame, without guilt. You know, we all deserve that space, you know, to just be and to just, you know, talk through what we need to talk through, or process things, or cry, or yell, or curse, you know, just to give yourself that space, I think is important. But I think it's also important too, again, for like that clarity, for that peace of mind, for that support. You know, sometimes, you know, we experience, you know, lives, as we all know, and sometimes we need help, and sometimes we need someone to help us, you know, journey through, or to help us know that we're not alone as we figure some difficult things out. And so I you know, and I will say for myself, I am a therapist, and for so long I kind of gave myself the pushback, like I don't need therapy, you know, because I know how to teach. I don't need to go to someone to teach me the skills that I can teach others. No, we all you know, we all
my therapist need a therapist.
Right.
Yeah.
We do, you do. And I realize, you know, I'm overwhelmed myself. You know, I'm dealing with a lot, and just to give myself that space to release it, you know, and to leave it there, and I don't have to pick it back up, you know, is so important. We don't, especially as, you know, as a community, and as people of color, you know, we've overcome so much, and we've gone through so much, that we have normalized struggle. We have normalized, you know, just having to push through, and we have normalized not giving ourselves the space to heal, and the space to just to be. And I released that superhero, like, you know, the complex, the ability that you just have to struggle and push through. No, you do not. If you need to take a second, take a step, and kind of re-examine and reset yourself. I say all the time, I'm speaking to myself too, we can't pour from empty cups. You cannot. And we oftentimes, as a people, we will go on E. And like, how can you be the best daughter? How can you be the best mother? How can you be the best at your job, and you're on E, and you don't take the time to fill yourself back up? And so get to therapy. And I also want to say too, therapy is not just for when you're going through something negative. You know, I think a lot of times people associate and connect therapy to, oh, you going through something, or you don't have it together. People can have it together and still need that space to talk, and still need that space to kind of just process things, and just still have that space to, you know, say, listen, let me be proactive. You know, I recognize that this and this and this can happen to me. What are some strategies that I can learn now, so that I'm not being reactive, but I'm being proactive? And so go to therapy.
Because I started therapy. And I started therapy. A situation happened in my life. I'm like, oh, let me get a part of it. So 2 years, good. But I'm like, before, I wasn't against it, but I was so stuck in my ways. Like, I wanted her to basically confirm the thoughts that I had in my head, you know, but she challenged that. And then I'm like, okay, before, like, I have to change my therapist, because before I felt like I'm not getting nowhere. So now she challenged, like, and I love the challenge, because you're talking to your friends, like, yeah, but like, this is what happened. They just condoning your thoughts. Sometimes I don't need that.
Yeah.
And then it helps me. It literally, like you said, clarity, understanding. Like, my processing is so much different now. I'm still learning, but my process is different.
And again,
and like how the communicate is
challenging those negative thoughts, because a lot of times people will just be in these negative self-talks and these negative ruts, and there's not people challenging them, or, you know, combating certain things to bring them out of that space.
Right. Right, because the more you get somebody in that space, and then somebody digging down. So like it's the strength. Like I really would recommend therapy to anybody. Like it is helpful. It's a great resource. Your insurance can cover it if you have the proper resource. So that everybody think about the price. It's confidential. It's a judgment-free zone. But like it's just so people get, like you said, attached negativity to that.
Yeah.
But we need a part 2 to this. I really do. Yep, part 2 will come soon.
And I think even people
so,
who don't have insurance, there are resources, there are, you know, avenues and venues that you can go to. And, you know, even just like our phones, you know, a lot of things are smart now. And so there's different mindfulness. And of course, it doesn't necessarily take the place of it. Like, go talk to someone, you know, but in the meantime, while you are trying to find that person or you're trying to figure out what avenue to go to, there's plenty of resources and things that can help you. And your friend is not your therapist, get you a therapist.
Your friend is your friend who's going to condone the
foolishness. No.
Yeah, no.
Your friend don't want to help you that way. Get a therapist.
Yeah, no, she's not helping. And 2, it's also important to take, like you said, give yourself that space. If you need to withdraw for a little bit to get yourself together, everybody that's around you, around your circle, should understand and love you the same way and pour into you more, because you're like, okay, she distances herself, she don't know. That's not usually like her. So I'm gonna give her a space, but still give her that confirmation, like everything's gonna be okay. Some people take offense to that, and it's like, okay, you taking offense to me getting myself together, then maybe we shouldn't be friends after all. So taking that step back can actually help you see your circle around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, you said pouring into yourself. I had a Getting Back to Me webinar. So I did have this PDF file. So anybody who is struggling, like when to fuel themselves, who they are, stuff like that. You can reach out and I will give you that PDF file as well. Everybody who was on my webinar, they can attest that it was a good worksheet. Even if they don't attest to it, I say it was a good worksheet. So, but I just really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your professionalism. This was a great conversation. It was resourceful, because some of the stuff that you said, especially with children, I'm gonna start implementing with my daughter, especially a morning routine. The affirmations, well, Latasha, she does braids. That's her company, and I went to a tea party with her, and she did an affirmation box. So I encourage that as well too. Like even adults, drop some stuff in the box, pick it out that day, and it's whatever. Keep it writing down. It is definitely helpful. But I thank you so much. Keep on doing what you're doing. You are definitely a blessing to adults, children, especially my Vernon School District. They need it, and I'm glad that they have you a part of them.
Thank you.
It's definitely a blessing. Yes, so do some announcement, guys, before we close out. I started my Shake the Room anti-bully movement. I'm doing a fundraiser for it right now. It's $20, or you could just donate. So basically, Shake the Room is we're going to shake the room. I did have some people reach out to me. A teacher is bullying a student in a wheelchair. That's disgusting. Like, no. So guess what? I'm going to reach out to the school. You have 48 hours to respond back to me. If you don't do it, I'm going to hire you up. Everybody only get 2 days with me. And if we need to go to higher officials like police, so be it. Your actions cause this consequence. That's what's going to happen. Every child should feel comfortable going to school and feeling safe. And we're not playing with that. But so the funds is going for that child can get a free Tough Cookie package. So what the Tough Cookie package is a t-shirt, a journal, because I definitely promote journaling, some kind of gift card, or like a cash app, depending on what the parent accept or allow them to do, some kind of incentive, a personalized message from me, and a shout out on my Instagram page. And it's not going to be like, oh, this child was bullied. No, we're going to uplift them, seek positivity into them, and just highlight them. And then they could go back to their friends. But look at me, I'm on some other social media. You know, kids love social media nowadays. So yeah, you can gloat too. Like, hey, I'm here and you're bullying me, but look how great I am. Yeah. So that's just what the Shake the Room movement is about. I'm very passionate about it. And I'm having a webinar, Raising Millennials, on October 4th. It's a $10 ticket, and the money is going towards the Shake the Room movement. But it's not a parenting class. It's exactly how we spoke about it today. how to make our children feel safe, how to communicate with them, how to implement certain strategies, and breaking generational cycles. Definitely having that conversation piece. I'll be collaborating with you and sending thank you. Anything, if anybody want to donate anything, I am definitely taking, because any small thing can help a child, and I'm all for it. And I will be posting Phylicia's website and her email if you will do have any advice, especially for your children. She can help you if you want to get therapy. Her sister's gonna write her website as well. I'm gonna add her to the comments. Anybody, let's go. We got to do it together. It takes a village, so we're gonna be strong about it. And if you have her website, you could just text it to me and I'll put it up there. And my next episode, because that's social anxiety, right? So I'm branching that out there. And I'm doing another episode next week, but this one is really fun. It's a 90s themed game night, and you can win a prize. I give out free prizes, and it's custom prizes for A2 Books Inc. And I'm really excited for that. So if you want to join in to get some prizes, tap back in. Next week is the 20th and at 8 p.m. And again, thank you so much, Phylicia, for joining on. I truly appreciate it. And thank everybody for tapping in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was resourceful. I will be uploading this on my YouTube page, so go like, subscribe, and comment. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode as much as I did. Join the family and follow me on Instagram at MySafePlaceWithTati, and visit my website www.mysafeplace.org. Until next time, bye guys.